What's up, guys? And it's another episode of the City Skyline game. If you haven't watched our first video, I'll leave the link in the description section. Just get to it to see where we started from. If you're a beginner, that video will be good for you because you're going to learn a lot of things. But in this video, I'm going to show you one trick or one tip that could change the entire game for you. Yes, it could save you a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of expenses. I mean, equally saving you the money. And a lot of beginners don't know this. I'm sure a couple of people who are also familiar with it don't know about this particular trick. So let's just play with the game a little bit and then let's get into it. So there are a lot of people who don't even know about this, and it's very simple. You see, when you start the game, there are lots of features that you get or infrastructure that you need to build, but there's one key infrastructure that you don't need to put up so much, and that is the grid line. Yes, so what is a grid line? Great, that is a grid line. So just as you see me dragging my screen or dragging something on my land, you get to see the estimated cost for the grid line. Yes, and that is something that you need to look at very well. Most of the times when people start or when the beginner starts, all they do is just try to build a lot of grid lines from one end to the other. You don't need to build that grid line, not at all. So I'll take you through this, and it's very simple. When you start constructing your road, you get to see that one grid line from one other point extends when you mark the zone area, whether residential, commercial, or industrial zone. That means the wiring of your electricity moves from one point to the other. So, for example, if you are constructing a grid line which is costing you $2,000, 2,000 cities, you are spending so much that you don't need to. Of course, you also need to have an upkeep for this grid line. However, when you decide not to do the grid line, you tend to save a lot of money. So when you look at what I'm doing here, I decided to build a small city somewhere else. I won't say it's a small city, but more like a small area that I wanted to put up. So I had to add a toll booth just to generate some income for me. But that is not what we are discussing today. But when you see how I connected my grid line from that point, initially I could have just highlighted the whole area and probably drawn all the grid lines or moved the grid line from one point to the other. But instead, I just connected it to a small area that I have decided to mark as a residential area. And then I keep adding more zones, whether commercial, whether industrial, residential, so that at the end of the day, they are connected. So I don't need to spend so much money drawing grid lines. When you do that, you are able to spend less on construction of grid lines. So, because the grid lines is just to connect one point of electricity to the other. So, if there is city A with no electricity and the city B with electricity, moving a grid line from city B to city A gives power to city A from city B. And that is something that most people don't know. So they get the land and they start putting up the grid lines all across the roads. Yes, that is a lot of money that you're spending. You don't need to do that. So if you want to save money as a beginner in City Skyline game, avoid putting up grid lines. You could just pull up about 200-meter grid line and then try and build your residential markings from there. It saves you a lot of time and it saves you a lot of money. So if you are new to this game, that's the video. You need to watch how we connected our cities together or our towns together without the grid lines. And it saves us a lot of money all the time. And this is something that when I started playing this game, I never knew about it. I always spend time and spend money trying to build the grid lines from one point to the other. But upon several years of playing this game, I've realized that it's really not important, because once you connect your residentials together or your commercial or industrial zones together, the power runs in a certain way. That's the wiring runs from one point to the other. So I would say don't build grid lines. So let's watch the game and see how I move the city from one point to the other. Now you can see our revenue has increased, our income has also increased. Of course, expenses will never drop because the city gets bigger. You need to build infrastructures, and that is something that you always need to balance. And I already mentioned that in the previous video. If you never watched that previous video, you could quickly check the description section to get the link and then look at that video on how we started building our small town or small city with that little income that was given to us. Yeah, and I'm sure you get to learn a lot of things. So let's enjoy this video as we continue to build our small town or small city.